If you are looking for a standard guide for the following Champions meeting, this video isn't talking about that. Champions meeting 6 through 9 have been affected by the early versus anniversary balance patch. This means we now need strategies that differ from the existing ones. However, since the primary goal of this channel is to translate and introduce Korean server guides for a global audience, I wanted to take a moment to look back. In this video, I'll be presenting a quick archive-style overview of the past strategies for for effective Champions meetings to give you a clear perspective on how things were handled. Here are the track details for Champions meeting 6 through 9. Now let's see which runners were used for each position starting with Champions meeting 6. Regarding inheriting Ults for the Libra Cup, there weren't many effective inheritance skills available. While Sail Sky was an option, her skill timing wasn't considered particularly effective. Using her felt a bit forced because there weren't many options to choose from. For pace, if it was predicted that there would be no front in the race, players often use Sail Sky or Daiwa Scarlet. Note that Scarlet also requires a specific position conditional. For speed, McQueen or Via Hayahide were used. Late runners typically equip inheritance skills from Ryan, Ugri, Rudolph, or Teo. However, the general idea was that reaching the proper stat thresholds and having effective skills were more important than the inheriting unique skills. The situation for End was very similar to that of Late, focusing on solid stats and complementary skill sets alongside the standard inheritance. Frontrunners haven't been particularly strong at long distances yet. If one had to be picked, Saint Sky or Major Red Queen or the picks, Saint Sky was used more frequently as she could utilize her inheritance skills slightly more effectively. However, because of the triggering of angling and scheming is late, it was difficult for front to maintain their lead. Therefore, pace lineups generally offered a better win rate. It wasn't that pace was inherently overpowered, rather, as the meta shifted away from front, pace lineups emerged to capitalize on angling and scheming dynamics. Super Creek and Agnes Taken were solid choices due to their built-in healing unique skills, and Major McQueen was considered a decent standard pick. For Diva Scarlet, there was a specific strategy to reclaim first place just before the late race starts, turning her unique skill into an effective acceleration tool. Lake weren't highly recommended for the Liberal Club, while Manhattan Cafe or Machikane Kitaru were mentioned. It was generally considered more effective to reassign them to end rather than running them as late. Cafe was manageable for this since her end aptitude is C, but Huku was difficult to use because her end aptitude starts at F. Since the late race starts on a straightaway spurt became the priority. Goship and Artentation were the standard picks. Other characters were essentially reassigned to N, specifically to gain access to straightaway spurt. Goship was highly recommended as the easiest to build, while Narcotation was favored for the sheer destructive power of her encroaching shadow. Hence, the recommended team comps would be running two end runners, as you can see in the middle. Since straightaway spurt has no ranking requirements, the biggest advantage is not being tied to a specific position while still aiming to have one pace in your comp to get the pacemaker bonus. To prevent this free pacemaker, a setup designed to disrupt the opponent's pace, we could run one front, though its overall evaluation remained somewhat mediocre. Other than that, two pace with one rate could also be a viable competition if you are running pace with rank dependent unique skills such as Agnes Tachyon or Super Creek. In short, end runners were dominant. Front and pace had the interconnected relationship, meaning if there were no front to take the lead, a pace acting as a pacemaker could become very powerful and potentially beat out the end runners. Moving on to Champions Meeting 7, the Scorpio Cup. First, let's look at the unique skill. Acceleration skills trigger at the late race corner, and acceleration and speed skill trigger at the final corner are effective. Seiyun Sky is essential for front acceleration, and McQueen is a solid choice for speed. There were virtually no effective inherent acceleration skill for pace at the time, while Taiki Shoto or Marginsky could use their own unique skill effectively as a main runner, inheriting them provided little benefit. Instead, using Orgric Cap as a speed inheritance was a decent option. For late, Major Ryan and the Fantasy Alcondra Pasa are not bad. For speed, Ori or Rudolph were used, or other options if you aim for an earlier trigger. Lastly, to be honest, end runners weren't highly recommended for this Champions meeting. If they were used, their skill setup was very similar to that of late. So, what were the runners for the Scorpio Cup? Summer Marginsky was the undistributed top tier. Other front runners included Seiyun Sky and Major McQueen. Sky is known for her explosive power when her unique skill triggers, while McQueen was capable of her strong connection or speed carryover by using her speed boost to lead into late race acceleration. In this Scorpio Cup, the final corner is close to the start of the late race, so Unrestrained is surprisingly effective. Even picking up the lower tier version final push is expected to be quite useful. Falcon was considered as well due to her effectiveness of her built-in passive skills. Frankly, the pace lineup is quite intimidating since there were no effective inherent late race acceleration skill for this version. Player had to rely on the original unique skills of the main runners. Taiki Shoto's medium aptitude is E, but she can be used by stacking many medium sparks. Marginsky is harder to build since she requires reassigning to pace aptitude. Lion Top Gun was used when one didn't have either of those Umas. Because of the track conditions, it was difficult for late and end to move up. So the standard placement for late is simply using the burst. However, if you want to use one as your ace, the following lineup was used. Major Ryan's unique skill triggers at the fastest timing on the late race corner, making her a mandatory inheritance for all late runners. For Gold City and Major Dover, their unique skills were ineffective at the time when inheritance. If you were to add additional inheritance, it was best to stick with the previously mentioned Ryan or Fantasy El Condorpasa. The standard comp was the one front, one pace, and one late or developer. Having two front setup existed, but there was a high risk of a well-built pace runner coming up and crushing the competition. One front with two developers or one pace with two developers were also valid strategies. Considering that Taiki Shoto's unique skill condition at the time was third to fifth place, you can see how the first anniversary patch brought both buffs and nerfs to Taiki's ult. To summarize the Scorpio Cup, one of the most common high tier combinations was Summer Marinsky, Taiki Shoto, and Nice Nature as a developer. Now, Champions Meeting 8, the Sagittarius Cup is a long race. The main unique skills are angling and scheming, and let's pump some iron. Straight acceleration skills, late race corner skills, and final corner speed skills were all valid here. For front, seeing Sky is the standard, McQueen is a solid pick. If you're running Sky but expected Summer Marzinski opponents, inheriting her unique skill is a viable strategy to maintain the lead. Pace has a lack of reliable acceleration. You have to rely on the randomness of straightaway acceleration or head on from the manual Top Gun speed card. Ignited Spirit Power from Unity Cup is an option, but a bit niche. A Christmas Ori is also an option, but without a guaranteed way to trigger a speed carryover to inheritance alone, she can be unstable. Anyway, for speed, Overcap and McQueen are the primary choices. Layton and have a similar setting. Major Orion and Major Dover are effective for acceleration. For speed, Rudolph is used, and McQueen can be used to maintain momentum if you already launched successfully. However, the Main issue is the lack of skill points. If you try to learn both Ryan and Dover skills, you'll likely run out of points for speed skill. The end setup is similar to late, but straight expert and its gold version, the encroaching shadow, were incredibly effective. It's one of the fastest acceleration possible back then. Adding ignited spirit power or ignited spirit speed was recommended. Recommended runners for Champions Meeting 8 starting from front. As mentioned, the late race straight is immediately followed by a corner, making Same Sky's unique skill a very effective hit. So we naturally recommend this guy because her main advantage is the explosive power of her own unique skill. With her built-in healing skill and mid-leg persistence, some of our emergency can overtake other frontrunners and trigger her unique skill to hold the lead. And there's McQueen, a reliable pick if you lack the other two, and she can be reassigned to Pace as well. Surprisingly, Pace was quite weak in this Champions meeting due to the lack of good acceleration skills. Overcap and McQueen are the standard picks, but if the meta is front heavy, they risk sinking without doing much. Mayana Top Gun is another option, but faces the same risk. For Christmas Story, this was her debut Champions meeting. She uses triple sevens at the 777-meter mark to trigger her unique skill. While she doesn't fully dominate it, since she often sacrifices speed and stamina benefits just to gain acceleration, she is still very powerful if prepared correctly. Next, we don't recommend it late because N is a much more stable option, so most of them are situational picks. One noticeable choice is for armor Machikane Kitaru, who is often mentioned for long distances. She can hold against N runners climbing up with her unique skill, but she struggles in the final stretch. We will at least need to equip on your left to make her viable. This track was built for straightaway spurt. Gold Ship and Narita Taishin were the immediate go-tos. Gold Ship has a bundle of stability with her villain healing skill and mid-leg speed, while Taishin has the best explosive power with Encroaching Shadow. During the event, Tamama Cross was added, making this her official Champions Meeting debut. Manhattan Cafe was also considered a very strong pick for this race, and even Christmas Ori was considered for a reassign to end. The most standard and reliable teams for the Sagittarius Cup were one front and two end. Since angling and skimming was still effective, front is more comfortable choice than pace, and end runners naturally dominate because of straightaway spurt. One front, one pace, one end setup isn't bad, but the pace runner's role feels a little bit awkward. There likely won't be many opportunities for a pace runner to act as an effective pacemaker in this meta. This is the debut for Christmas Ori. To be honest, it would be a lie to say she wasn't scary. However, once the Champions meeting actually starts, some might feel she isn't scary at this stage because of the pre-balance patch meta. Her speed carryover wasn't 100% guaranteed, but the fact that she was this powerful even without the perfect setup is what makes her truly terrifying. The early implementation of the burst anniversary balance patch makes this situation even more interesting for the global server. The main point to watch will be how much Christmas Ori can actually perform. The Capricorn Cup is a short distance race where straight acceleration skills, final corner speed skill, and final straight skills are highly effective. For skills for front, while Smart Falcon is an option, she is typically used as a main runner to guarantee a speed carryover rather than as an inheritance. Alejandro Pasa's unique skill is in hybrid, the speed plus acceleration, triggered on the final straight, so it is best used by frontrunners sitting in first or second place. There is no major need to focus on inheriting speed skill here. The pace setup is quite standardized. The basic frame is to use inheritance from El Condorpasa and Halloween Super Creek. While Ogre Cap can be used for speed, you will likely find yourself short on skill points. Since Major Orion's unique skill is unusable this time, late runners have to rely on your left. For speed, Oricap is used, while Symbol Rudolph is an option. Her skill risks triggering during the acceleration phase, making it less effective. Lastly, for ends, Straightaway Spurt is available, but the larger the gap with the other runners, the harder it is to catch up. Some strategies involve aiming for Halloween Creek inheritance or even Emergency's red shift. However, remember that for late and end, the timing of red shift is too late to be guaranteed effective. The most important characteristic of the Capricorn corn is that there are no corners during the start of the late race. This means both Skies and Ryan's ult are invalid. This is why Smart Falcon and Alcondor Pasa emerged as a key pick, but they do have some downside as well. For Smart Falcon, she doesn't have issues with short distance aptitude, but her unique skill must trigger but just before the late race to be effective. For El Condorpasa, her short aptitude is F, and she lacks front aptitude as well, so it is much less stressful to run her as a pace runner. We could consider running Summer Margins key, but without angling, she must survive by using El Condorpasa's inheritance and the Highlander skill. Pace is expected to be very strong, inheriting El Condorpasa's skill and Howling Creek's skill fits this position perfectly. Both are hybrid skills that include acceleration. The issue at the time was lack of available short distance runners. Even if you found one, the distance aptitude was a nightmare. While Sakura Bakshin O and Uricap are standard picks, using El Condor Pasa and Howling Creek as parents often means sacrificing short distance sparks. Some players found it better to give up on short distance sparks entirely and focus solely on grabbing the Highlander skill. Lane runners have no guaranteed acceleration. You have to gamble on random acceleration like on your left or no stopping me. Kawakami, for instance, is slightly easier to build since she's guaranteed to gain Highlander during training, but King Halo faces a much tougher challenge. Air Group is another option, but the late version generally struggles to catch up, and since Ryan and Dover skills are invalid, you basically have to be lucky. Like the Sagittarius Cubs Railway Spurt is valid for end runners. However, in the short distance race, there is a serious question whether they can actually close the gap in time. Narita Taishin and Tama Cross are options, but their distance aptitude makes them very difficult to build. You will likely face a lot of dilemmas when drafting your Capricorn entry. Some might have great skill but terrible distance aptitude, or they have the aptitude but their training goal is long races such as Tenno Spring, making them hard to build. This is why everyone ends up training boxing and ogre. The most stable setup would be one front and two pace, while adding one late and end runner isn't bad, but it is expected to be a struggle. This is because front and pace runners can stack 2 to 3 acceleration skills, while late and end runners usually only have 1 to 2, and even those are often random. Additionally, if you want to avoid the stress of setting distance aptitude, sticking with pace is the safer choice. Do note that this can lead to the 9 pace nightmare, where the entire field is all pace runners. Developers are expected to be effective. Short distance develop isn't great, and the stamina requirements for short distance is low that develops barely matter. It's best to bring another ace. Overall, the recommended team is the Smart Falcon, Sakura Vaccine O, and Oricap combo. These three are the most standard and easiest to train. A recap can be used as either a pace or late runner, though pace is more stable. Short distance is truly a luck based champions meeting. Higher stats don't always guarantee a win, so prepare well and pray for the best. So that was a quick overview of the past Champions Meeting 6 through 9. I'm hoping that Champions Meeting 10, the Aquarius Cup, gets back on a normal schedule so I can prepare the next videos more smoothly. I wish you all a happy new year, and I'll see you in the next video.